Oops. Hello, this video is what an American thinks about Romania. This is part 2, Romania, because I did a what an American thinks about Romania already, but I guess I'll do another one since I went back there. And I probably saw maybe even more of it this time than I did the other time. And a lot of Romanians weren't happy with the other one that I did, because I mentioned that I was in a train station and or metro, and I saw some beggars, and they were like, "Why do you talk about beggars? Everybody has beggars." And I was like, "Oh, that's all I remember about Romania, you know." So anyways, yeah, but anyway, yeah, what I think about Romania, well, Romanians, they seem really like, they get really like agitated, man, like upset easily. They're like punchy, man. I don't know if it's from a Napoleon complex or what it is, but all these people like getting all pissed off at me for saying that. And then for misspelling Ceausescu and Brasov, they get upset with me, you know. It's like out of all the countries I've done, like 45 countries, nobody's ever gotten upset with me except the Romanians, and it's like a whole bunch of them, so. And I did that couch surfing, and you know, some girls like, "Oh, I don't want to put you up, but you can hang out with us." So I went and hang out with them. And like one of her friends was like all pissed off the whole day, time talking in Romanian about her boss or something. But anyways, one good thing about Romanians is, and they are kind of gloomy though. They're like, you know, they're kind of like Eastern Bloc personality, not cheery and happy, and you know, and kind of easily agitated. Like this guy, I tried to buy some juice, and he tried to charge me like $25 for like 2 juices and 10 energy bars. And he's like, "What? That's how much it costs." So then I brought one juice back. I brought one juice back to the thing, and then I was like, "Oh, how much is it for 1 juice and 2 energy bars?" So then all of a sudden he's charging me like, you know, $7 or something. He charged me $6 too much, and then comparing to the prices, and then he was charging me $5 not enough compared to the prices. So that was kind of bizarre. But anyways, Romanians. One cool thing about Romanians, I didn't really talk that much to them, but I was, and it seemed like their English was okay in Bucharest, but in the outskirts they couldn't speak at all. But like these guys were really nice. I tried to ask them for water. I was in this town, and they were like, I wanted to know where water was, and it wasn't a small town. It was like a town, you know. And these ladies are like, blah, blah, some word, and they point off. So I go off, and I didn't see it. So then I go into a cafe bar, and there's all these guys, and I'm like, "Water, fill up water." And they point in the other direction, and they say the same word as these women did. And I go, "What?" So this guy stands up, and he takes my water bottles, and he walks like a block down, and he dips them in a traditional well with the pail where you have to do the rope down, and then picks up the water, and then he puts it in. And so like, I guess the whole town didn't have running water. They all got their water from that well. Or maybe that was the only drinking water, and it tasted really bad, the water. But he was like, "Yeah, this is good water." And it tasted good, actually, when I first drank it. But, so it's kind of poor out there in the rural area. They're really, really basic. But they were waving at me a lot, riding down the road. It was kind of like in Albania, and they were like, "Hey, what's up?" But one cool thing about Romania is, when I was in Bucharest, well, Bucharest is actually, I was really impressed with Bucharest. Bucharest is a really pretty city. It's got lots of parks all over the place, spread out really nicely. And the parks have like bike paths, really nice bike paths on them. And they have a really big river that goes through it. I think it's the Danube River. Not totally sure. But it's they have these big bike paths like right on it, you know, and these parks right on the Danube on the north side of the city. And then in the central part, they have this like canal type of smaller river that's lined with bike paths. And they have the biggest fountain area I've ever seen right there in the center. And then off in the distance, you have this like palace, which I guess was only built like in '95 or something. But it looks like a palace, you know, like the Versailles or whatever. You know, with the 2 sides, the roads that come in, but it was huge, you know. It was the biggest palace I'd ever seen. Like, if I'd have believed it was built 200 years ago, I would have been like, "Oh my God, It's just huge. It was way bigger than the one in Vienna, but you know, Vienna's old. It's an actual palace. This is just a government building built like a palace. And they have these two other government buildings next to it. They're built like palaces, so they build them like the same architecture as 200 years ago, which made it really interesting. You know, you could imagine them being that old, and oh my God, how, you know, impressive from back in the day. But so yeah, it did have a lot of those like communist apartment buildings, you know, that aren't painted and are really obviously built really cheaply with on one of the roads, and it went down, and there was just building after building with all of the cables, the electric cables and stuff crisscrossing up on top, you know, like how it used to be in New York before they buried them. But they did have a lot of trams and even buses that got their electricity from touching the electricity above, which is really cool. But one really cool thing about Romania, I was riding my bicycle looking for this big lake on the eastern side. It looked like a cool lake to look at on the map, because my hostel gave me a map. And I the canal went into this like beach resort area. So I went into the beach resort. It was only like $3 to get the ticket. And like a quarter of the women had their tops off. Which is insane because like the biggest beach area, you know, party place, pool area in America, there's not even one of them that's topless. You'd have to go to like, I think it's illegal in America. You know, you'd have to go to like, the only way you're going to see that is if you go out, if you heard of some like topless beach or whatever out in the middle of nowhere you have to hike to or something like that. So it was wild. Like, so they're really into titties over there. And they have like this big beach area, like sandy area, and they were playing all this music really loud, and they were like partying. They were like doing the train. It was like, they played that song, follow the leader, 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 follow the leader. And they're all holding, you know, hands to their waist and jumping around in this huge snake line going around and screaming and like dancing. And there were always a few people dancing there. And then there are these 4 big pools with all these people like hanging out in the pools and jumping in. And it was really lively. I mean, they know how to party there for sure. And then I went over to the big reservoir lake thing, and it was really nasty at some parts. But there were a bunch of topless ladies hanging out there too. It was crazy. A public area. And I did like a really long video of Bucharest. It was like 3 parts. It was like 35 minutes of video. But I lost my camera, so I didn't get to upload it to YouTube. It was kind of too bad because I did a really thorough job of videoing Bucharest. They have a Arc de Triomphe in Bucharest. That's an exact replica. At least it looked like an exact replica of the one in Paris. Right next to a park that's right next to the lake up in the north. And they have a lot of other stuff. One really interesting thing about Romania is that Romanian, the language is really similar to Spanish. I was in a train station looking at some booklet giving directions on how to hook up to the internet and McDonald's, and I was reading the booklet. And I could read it perfectly because I can speak Spanish. And, I mean, same grammar, same words, just a little bit different endings. I can't understand Romanian at all, but I asked a bunch of Romanians if they could understand Spanish, and they said they could. So that just got me thinking. It really made me fascinated in Romania, for one, which I want to study up on. But in that whole area, because it seems like that area, Southeastern Europe, is just a concentration of all these different kinds of people. You've got the Greeks, who have their own alphabet, the Albanians, who are like natives of that area with the Greeks, and then the Serbs and all of those Slavic people, who are a totally different group of people than the Greeks or the Albanians, at least as far as I can tell. They use the Russian alphabet, so now we're talking 3 different alphabets in that area. And then you've got, and like Greek is different language from the Albanians, and then the Slavs use their own language. And then there's Romania, where they use a completely different language, which is just like Latin. It's like, this is like a little enclave of Latin-speaking people. So I want to know like how it got like that way. Like, were they just had such a crazy affinity with Latin culture with Roman culture, I mean, that they just wanted to keep all that and they kept the language. It's just interesting. And then you have the Hungarians who speak their own language. So, which is totally different. So anyways. Oh, and also the titty thing. I went home to my hostel and I looked up the big newspaper. And they had like titty girl. And then all these other pictures of boobs. Which is crazy. So anyways. That's really all I know about Romania. Or I can talk about Romania in the amount of time that I have. But yeah, interesting place. I want to study up on it. Okay.